Right, so today's deep dive takes us to ancient Japan, but hold on. We're not talking samurai or shoguns.
Right.
No, we're going way back, like Time Machine, back to a civilization that makes those guys look like yesterday's news. The Jomon people.
Yeah, the Jomon people are really fascinating because they challenge our typical ideas about civilization.
Yeah, they really do. They didn't follow the typical script of empires and conquests and stuff.
Yeah, they did not.
Our sources for this deep dive are basically snippets from a casual chat.
Okay.
Maybe a podcast like ours, who knows?
Yeah.
But the stuff they're talking about is mind-boggling.
Oh, yeah.
We're talking a civilization that lasted for 13,000 years.
It's incredible.
13,000 years. Let that sink in for a second. To put it in perspective, if the Jonan were banned, they'd been playing gigs since before the pyramids were even a blueprint.
That's a really good point.
It's just crazy.
And here's a kicker.
Yeah.
There's no sign of war or violence in any of their archaeological sites. Imagine that a society that thrived for millennia without tearing itself apart. It makes you wonder what their secret was, doesn't it?
Seriously, even book clubs have more drama than that. So how do we even know about these peaceful pottery enthusiasts if they didn't leave us any written records?
Well, it's all about the dirt, my friend, archaeology.
Yeah.
It all started in 1988, completely by chance. A family in Aomori, Japan was renovating their house, and bam! They hit a jackpot of ancient pottery shards.
No way!
Yes. Turned out those shards were a whopping 16,500 years old.
Get out.
That discovery, known as the Daike Yamamoto site, is the oldest confirmed Jomon settlement, and it opened up a whole new chapter in understanding Japan's past.
So they were literally unearthed by accident. It's like the archaeological equivalent of finding a $20 bill in your old jeans.
Exactly!
I love it.
And the discoveries haven't stopped. Modern dating techniques have helped us piece together more of the Jomon puzzle, but remember, we're talking about a period that spans 13,000 years. That's a lot of time to account for, and there are still plenty of gaps in our knowledge.
Wow. Okay, let's talk about this pottery. Our sources mentioned something called rope-patterned pottery, and apparently it's kind of a big deal. Fill us in.
Ah, yes. The pottery, it's so iconic. It gave the Jomon their name. Jomon literally means cord-marked and refers to the intricate rope patterns they pressed into the clay. Now, why they did this is still a bit of a mystery.
Spill the tea, because I'm dying to know. Was it purely decorative, or is there like a deeper meaning behind these rope patterns?
Well, some think it was practical. Maybe the rope helped them grip the pottery better.
Okay.
But then there's the symbolic side of things.
Mm.
Even in modern Japan, rope holds a special significance. Think purification rituals, sacred boundaries warding off evil spirits. So it's not a stretch to imagine the Jomon people imbuing their pottery with similar meanings.
So maybe they believed a good rope pattern could keep the bad vibes away from their miso soup. Makes sense to me.
It's a possibility.
Right.
It speaks to their profound connection with nature and their belief in the power of everyday objects. They didn't just make pottery, they infused it with meaning.
That's cool. All right, now speaking of things infused with meaning, our sources also brought up these mysterious figurines called Dogu. They sound a little creepy, to be honest.
Oh, the Dogu.
Yeah.
They definitely fall into the uncanny valley category.
Yeah.
Imagine small humanoid figures with oversized features, big eyes, wide mouths, and sometimes even these bizarre, almost alien-like limbs.
Yeah, I've seen pictures. They're the kind of thing that makes you double-check that your doors are locked at night.
Right. Their purpose is still debated. Were they fertility symbols, representations of deities, tools for shamanic rituals, or maybe just Jomon-era stress balls? We're not entirely sure.
So basically, we have no clue what they were for, but they
Yeah.
definitely add to the mystery of the Jomon people.
Yeah.
Okay, but let's lighten things up a bit. Our sources talked about how peaceful the Jomon were.
Mm-hmm.
How do we know they weren't secretly waging epic pottery shard wars behind the scenes?
Well, aside from the fact that their pottery is remarkably intact,
Right.
the evidence is pretty clear. We haven't found any weapons in their settlements, and their skeletal remains show no signs of violent death. This is almost unheard of in ancient civilizations. It's like finding a unicorn in a field of horses.
So they were basically the hippies of the ancient world. Peace, love, and pottery.
Something like that.
I like it.
It's possible their decentralized, community-based lifestyle fostered a strong sense of cooperation, or maybe they had some seriously enlightened spiritual beliefs that emphasized harmony and balance. We can only speculate.
Well, whatever their secret was, I'm sure modern-day politicians could learn a thing or two from them. But alas, their peaceful existence wouldn't last forever. Our sources mentioned the arrival of a new group called the Yayoi around 3,000 years ago.
Right.
It's their story.
The Yayoi are fascinating because they brought something revolutionary to Japan. Agriculture, specifically rice cultivation, they were the game changers, the ones who brought a whole new way of life to the islands.
So they were the ones who introduced farming. Talk about a paradigm shift. How did the Jomon react to this new way of life? Were they eager to jump on the rice farming bandwagon?
It wasn't that simple. The arrival of the Yayoi marked a turning point in Japanese history. With agriculture came larger populations, territorial expansion, and eventually the seeds of social hierarchies and, yes, even conflict.
Sounds like the classic tale of peaceful natives meet technologically advanced newcomers. And things get a little complicated. So what happened to the Jomon? Did they get absorbed into this new Yayoi culture?
That's where things get really interesting and where the genetic mystery comes in. We'll delve into that after a quick break.
Okay, listeners, stay with us. We're about to unlock the secrets of the Jomon DNA and uncover what truly happened when these two worlds collided. Don't touch that dial. Welcome back, deep divers. Before the break, we were talking about the Yayoi people, shaking things up in ancient Japan with their newfangled farming ways. It's like the Jomon were living in a prehistoric version of the Garden of Eden, and the Yayoi came along with a plow and a how-to manual.
Yeah, it definitely shifted the balance, that's for sure. And it brings us to a real head-scratcher.
Ooh, a head-scratcher.
The Jomon DNA.
Okay.
Genetic studies have shown that the Jomon people had a distinct and isolated genetic lineage,
Okay.
suggesting they migrated directly from Africa, bypassing other populations along the way.
Wait, hold up. Straight from Africa to Japan.
Yeah.
No layover in Europe or Asia.
What?
They basically took the scenic route through prehistory.
That's what the evidence suggests, and it throws a wrench into some of the conventional theories about human migration.
Wow.
But here's where it gets even more interesting.
Okay.
If they were so genetically isolated, how did they end up merging with the Yayoi?
Right. Good question.
Some researchers believe that the Jomon gradually assimilated into the Yayoi culture, adopting their agricultural practices and eventually blending into a single population.
So it wasn't a case of out with the old, in with the new. More like a slow jam session where two different musical styles fused into something unique.
Precisely, but then there's the other side of the coin. Some researchers believe that some Jomon groups might have resisted this cultural shift, retreating to more remote areas like Hokkaido and Okinawa.
Interesting.
It's possible they held on to their traditions while the Yayoi culture dominated the main islands.
So imagine these pockets of Jomon culture, like little time capsules preserving their way of life while the world around them changed. It's like that one friend who still refuses to get a smartphone.
It's a fascinating possibility, and it speaks to the resilience and adaptability of human culture. It also highlights the fact that history is rarely a simple, straightforward narrative. There are always layers, complexities, and multiple perspectives.
Okay, I'm getting serious history nerd chills right now. But before we get lost in the mist of time, let's circle back to those intriguing and slightly terrifying Dogu figurines. We talked about how they were often broken before being buried. Any new theories on why the Jomon were so into smashing their art?
It's one of those enduring Jomon mysteries, isn't it? As we discussed earlier, it was likely part of a ritual, and the interpretation depends on who you ask with Barry. Some believe the Dogu represented individuals, and breaking them symbolized releasing their spirit either at death or during a healing ritual.
So it was like a prehistoric send-off party. See you later, spirit. Hope you enjoy the afterlife.
Or maybe a way of purging negative energy. Get out of here, bad vibes, we're smashing you to bits.
I like the way they think it's definitely more creative than burning sais, but seriously, what other theories are out there?
Well, another school of thought suggests that the Dogu were offerings to deities or spirits breaking them might have been a symbolic gesture of sacrifice or a way of saying, hey, great spirit, we're really serious about this request. Please accept this slightly damaged figurine as a token of our sincerity.
It makes you wonder what those spirits must have thought receiving these broken bits and pieces. Thanks for the fragmented figurine, I guess.
Right. It's a reminder that we can't always understand the past through our modern lens. We can only try to piece together the clues and come up with plausible interpretations.
Well, on that note, let's shift gears and talk about one of the most mind-blowing aspects of Jomon culture. Their seemingly utopian society. We've established they were peaceful. But how did they manage to live in harmony for literally thousands of years? Most reality TV shows can't even last that long without a major meltdown.
It's a question that continues to fascinate anthropologists and historians. One theory is that their decentralized social structure, where communities were relatively autonomous, might have prevented the rise of power struggles and large-scale conflicts.
So they were basically living the off-the-grid, self-sufficient dream, No need for kings, emperors, or tax collectors.
It seems that way. They might have had local leaders or spiritual figures, but there's no evidence of a hierarchical system like we see in later periods of Japanese history.
Okay, but even in small communities, people can still get on each other's nerves.
Mm.
How do they deal with conflict? Do they have Jomon-era mediators or group therapy sessions?
We can really speculate, but their spiritual beliefs likely played a role. They seem to have had a deep reverence for nature and a strong sense of interconnectedness. This might have fostered a culture of cooperation and conflict resolution.
It's almost like they cracked the code to peaceful coexistence, something that seems to have eluded humanity ever since maybe we need to start incorporating Dogu figurines and rope patterns into our peace treaties.
It's an intriguing thought, but remember, we're looking at a culture through the fragmented lens of archaeology. We can't romanticize the Jomon or assume their lives were free from challenges, but their legacy of peace and harmony is certainly something worth pondering, especially in today's world.
Agreed. And on that thought-provoking note, let's take a quick detour and explore some of the specific sites and artifacts that have helped us piece together this remarkable Jomon puzzle. Stick with us, folks. Things are about to get even more interesting. All right, deep divers, welcome back. We've been on this incredible journey through time, exploring the fascinating world of the Jomon people.
It's been quite a journey.
It has. Now, let's get down to the nitty-gritty and talk about the actual places and things that have helped us piece together their story. Because, let's face it, artifacts are like the ultimate time capsules.
Absolutely. They offer us tangible glimpses into the past, allowing us to connect with the Jomon on a more visceral level.
For sure.
One site that's particularly mind-blowing is the Sanai Maruyama site
Oh,
in Aomori Prefecture.
right.
This place dates back to the Middle Jomon period, about 5,000 years ago.
5,000 years.
And it paints a vivid picture of what a Jomon village might have looked like.
Wow, that's older than some of the world's major religions.
Yeah.
What kind of stuff did they find there? Was it just a bunch of broken pottery and Dogu fragments, or did they unearth something truly spectacular?
Oh, it's way more than just shards and figurines.
Huh.
Imagine walking into a prehistoric village with large wooden pit dwellings, storage pits overflowing with acorns and chestnuts, and even a massive six-pillared structure that might have been a communal gathering spot.
Hold on. A six-pillared structure like a Jomon-era town hall or something? Were they holding elections or community potlucks in there?
We can only speculate, but it definitely suggests a level of social organization and communal activity that goes beyond simple hunter-gatherer societies. And remember, this was all happening before the pyramids were even a twinkle in an Egyptian architect's eye.
Mind blown. Okay, so the Sanai Maruyama site is basically Jomon Central, but our sources also mentioned a site called the Sariyama site in Hokkaido, where a Jomon village supposedly existed for 6,000 years.
Wow.
6,000 years. That's like saying your family's been living in the same house since the invention of the wheel.
It's really incredible. The Sariyama site is a testament to the enduring connection the Jomon had with their land to live in one place for that long. You have to be in tune with your environment, and you have to have a pretty sustainable way of life. It challenges our modern notions of progress and constant movement.
It's like the ultimate anti-gentrification statement. We were here first and we're not going anywhere.
Yeah.
But all good things must come to an end. Right? We've talked about how the Jomon way of life essentially faded, likely merging with the Yayoi culture. But there's one more piece of the puzzle we need to address, the emergence of those giant burial mounds, the kofun, that popped up in Japan around 3,000 years ago. What's the story there?
Ah, yes, the Kofun period. This is where we see a shift in Japanese society from the egalitarian Jomon to a more hierarchical structure. These keyhole-shaped burial mounds were massive and elaborate tombs for the elite. We're talking weapons armor, intricate jewelry, all the trappings of power and prestige.
So basically the era of bling had arrived in Japan. The Jomon's minimalist aesthetic went out of fashion.
In a way, yes, it marks the rise of a warrior class and a more complex social order. The Kofun period is often seen as a bridge between the Jomon and the later periods of Japanese history, with its emperors, shoguns, and samurai.
So as fascinating as the Jomons were, their peaceful, pottery-loving ways eventually gave way to a more, shall we say, ambitious society. Kind of makes you wonder if they ever looked back and thought, maybe those Yayoi weren't such a good idea after all.
Perhaps, but it's important to remember that history is not a straight line. It's full of twists and turns, cultural exchanges, and unexpected consequences. The Jomon didn't simply vanish. Their legacy lives on in the DNA of modern Japanese people and in the cultural tapestry of the nation.
That's a beautiful way to put it. So what's the biggest takeaway from all of this? What can we, in the 21st century, learn from the Jomon people and their incredible journey through time?
I think their story reminds us that there are many ways to build a successful society, that peace and harmony are achievable goals, and that a deep connection with nature is essential for our well-being. They challenge our assumptions about progress and remind us that sometimes the simplest way of life can be the most fulfilling.
Well said. It's been an incredible deep dive. And I have to say, I'm leaving with a newfound respect for those ancient pottery-making, spirit-soothing, peace-loving Jomon people.
Me too. Their story is a powerful reminder that even in the dust and fragments of the past, we can find inspiration and wisdom for the present.
And on that note, we'll leave you to ponder the mysteries of the Jomon. Remember, the past is never truly gone. It's waiting to be discovered, explored, and brought to life through our curiosity and imagination. Until next time, keep those minds digging.